This is the Groove Guru podcast. My name is Windsor, and my guest today is Russell Gilbrook. Russell is currently the drummer in British rock band Uriah Heep, who have sold over 40 million albums worldwide. And along the way, you've worked with jazz musician Chris Barber OBE, Alan Price, original keyboardist for The Animals, and Pete Bardens of Camel. You've also worked with Tommy Iommi of Black Sabbath, Lonnie Donegan, the king of Skiffle, Van Morrison, power metal group Avantasia, and you even replaced Cozy Powell in Bedlam. You're also an experienced clinician and educator, and I've taught on Sky TV. Russell, thank you for being here today, and welcome to the Groove Guru, the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Windsor. This is great. Good fun.
Pleasure, man. Awesome. And first of all, recently saw you got married, so yeah, many congratulations on that.
Thanks
awesome stuff, man. Yeah, cool. And just some past context, you know, how we met. I first saw you at, it was in Glasgow. It was a clinic you were doing for McCormack's Music up there. And it was a place I used to get a lot of my old formative kit from there. And, you know, that clinic, wasn't just one of the best ones that I'd seen from a playing perspective and informatively useful, but also one of the most fun, which I think is what it's all about. And, you know, a few years later, we even did one together in Essex, which was a bit of a blast as well.
Oh, yeah.
And really great to reconnect again today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't do too many clinics at the moment. I'm just so busy with Heep. I still like doing them. And when some offers have come up, I've just been too busy. But no doubt there will be some more once I get a few gaps in the diary, because it's gone down a slightly different road now, the clinic scene, I feel, and it'd be nice to get back at a bit more fun and a bit more sort of what I would consider drumming that the majority of the drummers can get their heads round to play, and stuff that you would do on tour, you can bring to the table, and those little finer details to help people on their Saturday night gigs, I think goes a long way.
Absolutely. You know, all about that, you know, musical application rather than just stick tricks here and there and chops, which are fine in its own right, but that musical application, you know, really makes a difference. And, you know, speaking of which, I see, you know, you've been out with Heep again quite a lot. I think I saw you were in Finland recently with Accept and Deep Purple.
Correct.
How is that?
Brilliant. We did 6 festivals with them. We've been out for 3 weeks, 22 festivals, and 6 of them with the Purple Boys, who are great mates of ours, and Accept, actually good friends of ours. We had a good old catch up and a bit of a drink together. And obviously the people are very excited because they've been hit hard with the pandemic, the same as us. So there's a lot of energy and excitement about interacting with the crowds and everything. And it was great to hear them play as well as they heard us play, and have a good old catch up and chat.
Yeah, great. And, you know, for the audiences, I've never seen audiences enjoy and really appreciate live music, but these days it's happening again. And even in the face of the performers like you, I saw some footage of you playing with Heep, and just I love the joy that just comes through in your face when you're playing, and it's just always inspiring to see.
Nothing better than playing the drums. And you're right, you know, the 30 hours on a tour bus or hanging around in airports can be very, tedious and wears you out and stuff like that. But if the gigs weren't as good as they were, of course you wouldn't do it. But the gigs just wipe it all out, because it's such a wonderful feeling to be on stage. The fans are with you, they're singing your songs. I'm playing a musical instrument that I've worked hard for, and enjoying the fans and the musicians around me. I mean, I've got to enjoy it. I love it too much not to enjoy it.
Yeah, awesome. That's what it's all about. Loving it, man. And so obviously you've been playing with Heep for quite a while now. Was it 2007 you joined them?
15 years now.
Wow, awesome. So yeah, definitely want to make that continue, and definitely want to get into a Heep and stuff. And so just plotting the journey, the process for you. So how did you get started with drumming? How did that show up?
I was born playing drums, apparently. From the age where I could crawl, I used to crawl over to the Hoover and put my head on it for the vibrations. And my dad plays piano semi-professionally, and when he used to tap his foot for the timing, I used to go and rest my hand on it. So that was about 18 months old. And then I used to, get the old plastic bowls and spoons and tap along to the melodies if the radio was on or whatever it was. And so they thought when I got to about 4, I think we got a bit of a drummer, because I would be non-stop doing it. And I had my first drum lesson when I was 4, and we an old big band drummer in Leytonstone called Georgie Scott. It was quite well known back then. And at the age of 6, I was in a little band with another organ player who played obviously the pedals with his feet. Very, very good he was. 2 years older than me. So I was 6, he was 8. And I was earning 30 quid a week doing clubs and bits and pieces.
Great.
And it just moved on from then. I went to the Great Bob Armstrong when I was 8. No, I didn't. I went to Great Bob Armstrong when I was 6. And I was with him for 8 years till I was 14. And because I was obviously had a bit of a talent for it, I excelled as a kid. I used to get a lot of work, and my dad used to take me, and I used to end up talking to my dad for 10 minutes, and my dad saying, "Hang on a minute, I'm not the drummer, he is." And this tiny little dot sitting down drinking a Coke was me. And they panicked a bit, as you would do, because they're doing a proper professional gig. But obviously I did the job well, and I used to get rebooked, and that's really why I never get nervous when I play. I get excited about wanting to do a great gig and have a connection with the fans and everything, and make my fellow musicians feel good. But because I did it for such a young age, it didn't mean anything to me. And I was reading, at 10, I was reading music like it was a book. Didn't bother me. I decked out Jesus Christ Superstar when I was 12 in the West End. I mean,
Wow.
that scares me now, because I don't do as much reading music now. I don't have to. When I'm doing sessions, they're booking me to play. So I sort of sketch out a skeleton arrangement of what I want to play. And if it is a little bit more particular, I just write out, some notation for it. But the days of sight reading and having to read something a little bit more exact, I've done it for 25 years, and you do lose the touch.
Yeah, it's like if you don't use it, you lose it, type thing. Yeah, and that's pretty awesome, because like you're saying, you depped out Jesus Christ Superstar at 12, and like I'm thinking West End these days, any musicians there playing in the pit at 12? It's like, I don't think so.
I don't think
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
awesome.
The scene's changed a lot from that, but I did just get ahead of. I mean, I was almost Bob Armstrong's #1 dep for all the stuff that he couldn't do, just because obviously it made sense that I was the new generation drummer, if you like, and I was good enough, and it didn't faze me. So I'd gained experience enough where, as a kid, I wouldn't panic or anything like that. I just, I didn't know any different. I took to it just like any kid would take to anything when they're really young. So it was a big help for me, and a great grounding for me to get my arse roasted, as they called it. Yeah, there'd been plenty of times. I remember doing a gig for Bob in the West End. It was like I can't remember what it was, like some club thing. Obviously, I was allowed in there, but I always remember they were really good musicians. I can't remember the name of them. I only did one, you see. He said, go up there. It was like a bit of a roasting gig. And I absolutely nailed it, because I can read anything, right? How did it go, Russ? Like the next lesson I had with him, I said, I nailed it for you, mate. He said, no, you didn't. And I was like a bit confused. I said, I did. I said, didn't make any mistakes, Bob. I promise you I didn't. I said, no. He said, no, you didn't make any mistakes. He said, but you weren't very good. I said, but, I've read everything per. He said, you did, but you weren't very good. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, now has come the time when you need to understand what groove and feel is. It's not about playing it right. It's about how you express yourself, how you hit the drums, what you're listening to, who you're listening to, right? What the music's interpretation means on how you're going to express yourself. And that's when he got out Steely Dan, and then Steve Gadd, and then blah, 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 blah. And it all came out. He said, now spend between now and your next lesson, say in a month's time, just listen, and understand why they're playing what they play and how they play it. And it was that, and that was it. That was my life, because obviously I had really good hands. I could sight read anything. I mean, the Jim Chapin book, I just went straight through it like that. The Advanced for Modern Drummer, that one.
Yes.
I was the best student at doing that one. But like you said, the icing on the cake is, can you bring out a better groove and a better feel? You need to understand it, and then I can't teach it, but I can explain it to you. You can be aware of it, and now you've got to try and find it. That's what happened. Yeah.
Great. And that's comes up as one of those real key lessons, that one of those points that, oh, that's the thing, that's the direction to go in. And, groove. So what is your take on that? What did you learn about groove that changed your paradigm and just made all the difference?
It was honing, it was fine tuning dynamics, because without dynamics, you've got no groove. Beat placement, making sure that the beat placement was really controlled to the utmost, and recognizing which part of that quarter note I need to play on, the front, the middle, or the back, for what reasons, and then listening back to a groove that I would play and homing in on that to see if it does make me feel good, or am I just playing a groove? I didn't want it to just be, oh, that's page 3, exercise 4. I wanted it to be, oh yeah, I can feel that. And so I played like that, and just messed around with my own playing and not wanting it to sound like an exercise, if that, you get my drift. I had the Joel Rothman Monster Book of Rock Drumming, which is good, fantastic book again. And I went through that again, and I used to record myself, because I wanted it. Oh, that I played exercise 4 on page 1, but it doesn't sound like that now. You know what I mean? And play it as written, but I don't want it to be played as written. I need to make it mean something.
Yeah, and that's that difference. It's like you can get something conceptually, but then it's like when you really start to feel it, like, in the body as well, and
that's right,
putting the emotion in it.
It's not necessarily changing anything. This is what people don't understand about feel. You don't necessarily change anything. It's how you go about playing it, and it's such a subtle thing that some, obviously, a lot of Joe's blogs don't get it. They don't get it. Musicians get it, and it's worlds apart. But really, it's only that. But what you get out of it is this flaming world, because something that grooves just eats alive anything else. You can't help but move with it. And that's what you try and search for. And it doesn't matter what you do. It's a slight you play a rock groove and mess around with just a hi-hat. You completely change the whole groove, but you haven't really changed the groove. You're messing around with the dynamic of the hi-hat. And it completely changes how it comes across. And it's things like that. Once you understand how to search for that feeling, that nice feeling, then you just apply it to what you already know how to play.
Yeah, great. And there was a point I heard you say, what I thought was fascinating, which you were talking about finding the right emotion to suit the vibe of the song, which is like another part of it. And I'd love to hear how do you apply that in practice? Getting in the kind of feeling for the song. Do you have a method that way, or
examples from Heep that I do now?
Yeah, great.
Got a song called Gypsy, 85 BPM roughly, so it's a nice stomping BPM. Bang, 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 bang. Right, so that's telling you something straight away. It's aggressive. So those quarter notes are going to be stamped with authority. Absolutely stamped with authority, and they're going to be smashed right in the middle of the quarter note. There's nothing laid back, there's nothing pushed. The tempo, it's that magic tempo between 80 and 95, I feel, that has got just a swagger about it. It's a walking tempo, it's nice and easy. So the tempo takes care of the groove. It's now the intensity for me, and this is an aggressive song. So I now play it with utmost aggression, as opposed to something like Look at Yourself, which is still aggressive, but Look at Yourself is da 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 da. I play a double bass drum shuffle, not all the way through, part of it, but now it's got a swing. And to me, when it swings, all I think about, even when it's a rock song, this is a rock song, it's still powerful, I'm singing brass lines. Because I've brought up in jazz, the best way of swinging are with jazz players, not anyone else. In that mode, in that kind of swinging big band mode I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, say, a swinging what can I say? Not like, you can swing a groove, can't you? You don't not necessarily thinking about a big band is what I mean. But in this instance, I do, because that helps me really make sure that my dotted notes are swung properly.
Yeah.
I can really get back. And if I've got that going on in my head, right, I can swing with it because I was taught to swing with it like that. I get it, so I apply that into that. And then something that might be like Rainbow Demon's really slow. So that's dirty. That's filthy. That's like, well, I don't want to, it's dirty and filthy. You get the idea.
We can get the idea.
Again,
fill in the blanks.
The rock song as well. It still needs to have an aggressive side, but it's now 75% filth and dirty, and then I do find that putting the emotions of aggression, even a fight, the headspace of a fight, if something's frantic, I put all of those human emotions that we've all got into what I feel that song needs, and it does help me give that flavour. Whether Joe Bloss gets it, as I said, I don't know. I hope that my fellow musicians get it, because I hope that they have a similar outlook, maybe not identical to me, but they have a similar way of trying to get those elements out. But that's what I do.
Yeah, great. And it's like singing along, something as simple as that can just make the difference from just having nothing going on and being kind of playing, just to get some kind of vibe happening. And it's like contributes to the enjoyment and the passion of it, which it's palpable, which people can feel that. And some other things I'd love to ask about Heep, and on your journey towards that, what were some of those key lessons that you've learned along the way that really have helped to shape you, perhaps as your career progressed with working with different people?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the biggest things is working with as many different people as possible, because you've got to learn to play with shit players, and you've got to learn to raise your game up with good players, because no band can play better than the weakest link. It's just the way that it is, unfortunately. So sometimes you've got to wind it down, and sometimes you've got to get your act together. So playing with loads of different musicians and doing different gigs, I did the cruise, the boats on the cruise, tons and tons and tons and tons, Little and Large, Tommy Cooper, Bernie Cliff, all the cabarets. I've done the whole flipping lot. So, and you've got different bands in there, some great little MD keyboard players, some bass players who aren't quite on it, who don't get it, and then guitar players are a little bit rushy, all that bit. So all of those things, different things that go on, it triggered me what I need to do as a drummer to glue the thing together. If I had a dodgy bass player, need to run the show. If I've got an accelerating guitarist, I no longer listen to him, that kind of thing, because I can't have people pulling me. People who are asking me to be the glue. The drummers are the glue. Don't care what anyone says. Even though I believe everyone's responsible for the time, not just the drummer. If you rely on a drummer, you're an idiot. You're all responsible for the time, but the gluing person is the drummer. And like in recording studios, the amount of times I've done sessions, and as I said, for some reason in Europe, you have a lot of musicians rush the beat. It's just a European thing. So if you've got a track that you need to lay back on, you've got someone that rushes, I just take him out of my headphone mix.
Right.
Because I can't be stretching the quarter note that much. I want to put down a foundation of great feel and groove and swing or whatever it might be. And if someone's pushing me, I've got a click going, if I've got a click going, and I've got him in front of the beat. That's a crazy thing to try and play to. So I have them taken out straight away, and then I home in on what I feel. If you've got a great bass player, I'll lock in with the bass player, and then at least you've got now the foundation of a rhythm section that's got the platform for everyone else to go on. And the same in a live position. If a live situation, if the guitarist is better than the bass player, I'll now home in on the guitarist and I'll play with him, not the bass player. And that's what's a very good tip for people. They always think you always work in harmony with the bass player. No, you don't. You work in harmony with the best musician in the band, not the bass player.
Yeah, really interesting point that, just like because so often live there can be that natural push and pull, because no one's got perfect time exactly like a metronome. Well, maybe Jeff Porcaro, you could say, but there's always going to be that movement, and it's like that's that different dimension that happens live, because you could practice it and it's all perfect with a click, but then live, different thing. So really interesting to hear how you navigate that, and monitor's been really cool. And one other thing that I loved hearing about you, how you navigated it, was when you joined Uriah Heep, and I'd love to hear about your audition when you got that. I thought that was pretty cool. Could you talk about it?
Story. And again, it's all full of tips. I did it when I was teaching at BIMM in Brighton for a couple of years. I used to tell them the same thing, because I ended up teaching, I think, about 3 months, and then I got too busy with Heep. So the last 3 months, the students that were lucky enough to be there got to hear it. Basically, what happened was doing a lot of clinics, and one I used to always visit. There's a few I used to go back to the shops year after year after year. They just really enjoyed the clinic. They enjoyed me. I enjoyed doing them, so I get used to asked to go back and do them. And one of them was repercussion in Hull. And Trevor Boulder, who sadly died now, he was the bass player in Heep at the time, when he's one of the Spiders of Mars with David Bowie. And when I found out about it, obviously I knew he was a great player and a great bloke. But every time I went up to Hull, Heep were on tour, because I always do a lot of shows. They were on tour. He couldn't make the clinic. Well, this one particular time he could, and he came to see the clinic.
Right.
And afterwards he said, that's some of the best drumming I've heard for a long while. It's absolutely fantastic. He said, you're staying up here, aren't you? I said, yeah, I'm staying up. He said, fancy coming over for lunch tomorrow? Well, of course I'm going to go over there for lunch. Had a good old chat and everything like that. And that was it. Didn't think anything of it. And it was about 8 years later that I got a phone call of Trev. He said, what are you up to, Russ? I used to speak to him regularly, by the way. And he said, well, what are you up to? I said, well, the usual sessions, bits and pieces, grabbing this, grabbing that. He said, we've just signed a recording contract, and we got a world tour for 18 months with it. And our drummer won't last. He's out of shape. He's forgetting things. His just health is not good enough. And so we're getting a new drummer, and I put your name forward. I went, oh, great, brilliant. He said, but the only catch is that the management are doing it, and now we've got 240 drummers auditioning for it. So I went, don't make no difference to me. You know what I mean? Give me more info on it. So he gave me more info. I said, leave it with me. So left it with me. It was about a month later, I think, they were doing the auditions. And I went, right. So I did a bit of research, because I didn't want to join another flipping old band and do the old, but this was different, right? This was a different thing that you sort of dream for, if you like. Oh, right, okay, right. There's two ways I can play this. They've had Lee Kerslake for 37 years. Now, do I imitate him because they're used to him? Or is it my time to be Russell Gilbrook, and I do it how I think it should be done, which might be fresh for them, and they're certainly going to like my energy? Do I take a chance? So I thought, yes, too right, I'm going to be me. Why should I live in the shadows of someone else? I'll be me. So the audition come up. Now, this is a clever thing. They said to me, okay, they whittled it down. There was a lot of chances on the phone. They could tell on the phone, you don't even know what a pair of sticks is by. So the 240 quickly got put down to the last 40 in London over 2 weeks. So they run me up and said, right, okay, we've done 1 week. The second week, can you come in on Monday? I said, well, how long's it going? He said, we're doing Monday to Friday. I said, oh, okay. This was me being clever. I went, Monday? Oh, I said, I'm actually quite busy next week. I'll tell you what, I might be able to move something. Can I do Friday? Yeah, of course you can do Friday. Yeah, what do you want? 12 o'clock? I said, well, what time are you doing it from? He said, well, we're starting at 10 and finishing about 4. I said, right, okay, I'll do 12 o'clock. Right, so we put it down. Deliberately, I rang him up the next day. Oh, I can't do 12 o'clock. I forgot. I've got a dentist appointment. And I've got to get to London and everything like that. I can't do the last one at 4. Can I? I know it's a bit cheeky. No, that's fine. No one's in it. So I created the last audition for myself. You haven't got a big drum kit. We're using a house kit there. I said, oh, no. I said, I'll destroy that in 10 seconds. I said, well, I'm doing the last one anyway. So I'll just bring my kit and put it up. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I wangled the last audition, the last one ever, and my kit. Of course, I was up there at 9 a.m. because I wanted to hear the competition. And there were some drummers up there with the headphones on doing this. And you certainly won't get the audition. If you've got to listen to the stuff now, right, you've had it. I've done my homework. So it's 5 songs that they wanted everyone to learn that showed the different technicality and difficulties and stuff. So anyway, they've had a nightmare apparently for the first week. They've had a few people that have nailed it, but they just sound like Lee Kerslake, which was okay, but they weren't very inspired. But a lot of them, I won't name some of the famous drummers that went because it's not fair, but a lot of them, honestly, they were worn out. They couldn't believe that people couldn't play. They weren't doing a double-handed shuffle for easy living. They're going to it completely loses the feel. Anyway, some people hadn't learned all the 5 songs. So it comes to me. So I'm setting up. Have you learned the 5 songs? So I said, no. And their faces of horror because they've had such a long day. I said, I've learned the whole set. I can play it, the whole set tomorrow. If you want me to do a gig, I'll do the gig. And you should have the atmosphere and the uplifting and the smiles and the blah, blah. Oh, it was fantastic. So a big tip that was, go the whole mile. If you get preparations, everything. So we did the audition, nailed it, had a jam, standing ovation from the crew. Everyone's clapping like that. I come around the kit, talking to Mick Box. After 10 minutes, hang on a minute. I said, you're talking to me like I've got the audition. He said, you have. Let's go round the pub now and get pissed. That was it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, a lot of inspiration there, and just that confidence is something I really admire about you, that really can make a difference. And how have you developed that confidence and continue to express it? Was that a conscious process for you, or how did that show up, man?
Yeah, there's always that fine line, isn't there, between confidence and sort of arrogance and blah, blah, blah. I've never been arrogant. You know, I'll go to the pub and play in front of 5 people tomorrow and 100,000 people in Brazil the next day. It makes no difference to me. I like playing drums, right? Yeah. But confidence allows you to get through what potentially could be the only chance you get. You know, in an audition, they're not going to say, come back next week if you completely mess it up. If you've really done your homework and you're confident with the ability of how you play, you take that confidence with you. There's no good with the waterline being here. You know what I mean? Oh my God. You've got to make sure that you're never stretching your ability on anything. And there was nothing there that was difficult for me to play.
Sure.
Even when we did the first song we did, Between Two Worlds, Mick was about to, count it in. I stopped him. I said, hang on a minute. He said, well, I'm just going to give you, I said, I got the tempo. I said, I'll count you in. And I screamed it, and I could feel that they was, I've got someone taking in charge. Jesus, you could feel that from them. And it's a great feeling. And all that does is keeps my nerves out of the equation because I've taken hold of it. And I'm, because you know what it's like, if you are a good player, there's no reason to be nervous. The situation doesn't dominate because you're well capable of knowing how to play. If something's tricky, the nerves sitting because you're waiting for the mistake. This is a big problem that most people have when they do recording. As soon as they see that red light go on, right, or it's a take, they're now panicking because they're waiting for the mistake. If you wait for the mistake, you're going to make one. You need to be so confident that, I've learned that, I can play like that, boof, it's done, job done. And then if they don't like you because of, I don't know, perhaps you sped up in all the fills or the groove wasn't quite as nice as Windsor's up there, then so be it. At least you presented how you want to present it. And when Mick got asked when I got the audition, he said Russ came in and made the drum chair his own. And that's what we wanted. And that was it, really.
Brilliant. Yeah, just that, applied confidence, or that, knowing that you can do it. Like that, I've been exploring this, recently. It's like, because one of the things I'm sure you get asked about that quite a lot. Don't you get anxious, or how do you develop that? And I've been finding that through the repetition of like seeing that I can do it. It's like, that's like one in the cookie jar or the piggy bank that I can draw on. And through that repetition, it's like, yeah, I can do this. It's not such a big deal. So it's, just, finding these strategies that work. And, when you show up from that place, it's like, of confidence, you're given from your overflow. That's right. You've got more like gas in the tank, so to speak, which...
For the professionals that are out there, right, if your technique's good, it takes care of everything. If there's a flaw in your technique, it's going to show up big time when you're anxious, because that's what flaws do. If you've got a weak left hand and now the tempo's kicking it and you've got to play a double-handed shuffle and you know that you're going to struggle, when that comes up, what's going to happen? You're going to be in trouble from the first bar. But if you know that you can play at 250 BPM and it's 200, it's a breeze. Your technique will take care of everything if you've got sound technique. And that's what makes the great players great and the good players maybe struggle on certain things, because the flaw will raise its ugly head at the wrong time.
Yeah. Interesting perspective when it comes to, what is training and what is preparation, and a real big insight about that. It's like, we all play and we all see that we can perhaps do this bit better. So then it's like, okay, embrace that. Let's work on that, and it's that idea of just being okay with not being able to get something yet, because then that you notice that, then you say, oh, what is it that I do want? And then you can work on that. So just fully embracing it all can make a huge difference. And the other little quick point, it's like whatever level's required, it's like, okay, let's train to a level above that, and then whatever life presents on that level, it's no big deal. It's
that water level again.
Yeah, beautiful. I love the way you said that.
It's for all the musicians. It doesn't matter, but we're talking about drummers at any level now. It's the feelings that have to be comfortable. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you'll get it wrong. You have to make an uncomfortable feeling, whether it's the left hand doing this or the right foot with the once you make that comfortable, you're fine. But people don't practice the uncomfortable feeling enough to make it comfortable. They shy away. And that's why they become okay drummers and not good drummers. Oh yeah, but I can't just keep doing that because the left hand won't. Well, then you're going to falter every time that comes up. It won't write itself. It writes itself by slow practice to make that uncomfortable feeling comfortable, and then you speed it up. It's taken care of then. You only learn this stuff once. People don't realise. You only have to learn it once. You don't go backwards. You don't suddenly get your hand speed up to 200 BPM and then next week it's gone down to 100. No. It's hard to get it to 200 BPM. Once you've done it, it stays there.
Yeah, absolutely.
95 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that language of that has been coming up for me a lot. It's like basically making the uncomfortable comfortable, like programming the body. Because one of the things that I'm fascinated about is like, the body's got like a memory. We talk about muscle memory, and it's that thing. Say, whatever set of songs it is, it's like, okay, we practice it till I like to practice till I can just hear the whole thing in my head with a click. Then I know that I know it. But the thing is, it's like after not having played that set for 2 or 3 weeks, it's festival season, a few weeks gap. It's like the first time back, it's like I can just do it without thinking about it, and that it gives a real sense of trust. You start to trust yourself. It's like if I program the body with quality, it will remember it. Yeah, and that's just such a cool thing that wow. Talk about confidence.
I say to people, when people have got really good hand technique, I say, right, now play paradiddles wrong. They can't, because the technique's so good, it won't go wrong. And that's the state you want to get into. Then you enjoy the musicians and the fans. When I play with Uriah Heep, I don't think about any form of technique, drum for nothing. I know the songs, I know how to play. I enjoy them, and I enjoy my fellow musicians. I don't have to think about the problematic technical thing that's coming up or the timing issue here. No, the bass player's locked with me like a knitted glove, which is fantastic. So I ain't got to worry about him, right? Mick does push the guitar a little bit, but with live, it doesn't really matter. You get the energy from it. The keyboard player's got a great sense of timing. All I need to do is enjoy playing.
Mm.
But if you've got a hiccup in your playing, you're waiting for that hiccup. Where's it going to come in? Or it happens when it happens on that song, on that bit, and then that bit. Well, then what are you concentrating on? Now you're listening to yourself. This is when people turn around and say, you've got to listen to others. You can't listen to others if you're making mistakes because you're not good enough. You've got to take care of your own business before. Even when you're learning an instrument, it's great to listen to others, but you're going to be concentrate more on yourself because you're not in control of what you've got going on yet. You're concentrating because you don't want to make a mistake. You can't listen to your own playing and listen to the bass player with that going on. But you can when your technique takes care. You're just playing, and now the whole thing just you absorb the whole lot.
Yeah, and that's like gets into listening because I find that when I practice to the level of you can call it unconscious competence, that you're doing it right, but you don't have to think about it. And
Right.
what I find is a magical thing happens. It's like the simplest thing ever. It's that when I don't need to think about Windsor, what's this fill, and then it's like I listen better because there's no static in the way, and it's like the simplest thing. You can just enjoy it. It's like the reward for all the work you've done. And I loved, there was a great post that you did about that. It was, you're doing festivals and things and you're seeing a lot of drummers play, and you listed your 4 top things. I think it was was it tempo, groove, listen to what's going on, and no rudiments.
I'll stand them. Can't stand. Do you know? To me, I do find now. We've all got our own take on it, and one way isn't the only way. We all know that, right? But I do think I would actually say that the most damaging thing is the amount of rudiments people practice for the drum kit, not for side drum players, and not for all the other bits, but for drum kit players. There's far too many rudiments. People just have not got the time to sit down with 47 rudiments and go through them and this, that, and you don't even use half of them because, as we pointed out before, it is all singles or doubles. They're just combinations of. But most people's doubles is what they struggle on. We all know that. And then the second thing they struggle on is that accent to ghost note control. Right? And if you don't widen your dynamics, you're not musical. And if you haven't got your double stroke together, there's a hell of a lot of drumming you're missing out on. Well, then why not just work on that? Why are we working on the patter fla that you're never going to play? I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me. You're sacrificing valuable practice time on 25 mambo rhythms. When are you going to play a mambo rhythm? What, you're going to move to Brazil or something? It's being realistic, and I call it prioritizing what needs to be practiced to make you better, to put a smile on your face, to get you excited and enthusiastic about the drums. Not an effort and hard work. You make it more hard work for yourself by putting up the 47 rudiments and trying to nail them. Oh, look at this one. Look, I can do the Swiss triplet really fast. Yeah, but you can't hold the tempo to hold its own woman for 3 minutes.
Yeah, these lessons, like the simple, but initially they don't come with the drum kit, and it's so amazing to just realize, again, one of the big ones is the song is king. It's like I wouldn't be able to play on stage with the artists, bands, musicians without the songs, and it's like, so what can I do to make the song feel as awesome as it can? Musically, and that it keeps it simple. But one thing I'd love to hear about, and it's with the rock culture, because obviously you take care of yourself. I mean, what's your approach to that? Do you have a regime that works for you to stay on top of your game physically for what you do?
To be honest, I think it's literally years and 25, 30 years of karate and fitness. As well as, I play hard. I do play hard, and that keeps me physically fit. I don't suffer with blisters, right? I haven't found a volume knob on the drum kit yet. And all this business about stroking a drum. Well, there's a time and place to stroke a drum. When you're doing the Hilton Hotel where people are eating dinner, you don't bash the drums to death, right? But when you've got a massive stage, one of the ingredients and the reasons why I got the Heep gig is because I hit the drums hard. So all this business of not hitting them hard may lose you a gig. It's, you got to me, you have to explore what the drums do. And that means playing from 0 to 10, in my opinion. And your technique changes with that. The control mechanism, how you develop your power does change. And therefore your grip must change a bit. And that's for, you don't need to wear gloves and you don't get blisters. And it's tricky. But if you don't explore those avenues, if that gig comes up, now you've got blisters. Now you want gloves. Now you're struggling. Now you've got carpal tunnel because you don't warm up, and you've got problems with your forearm tensing up because you can't play at that speed. Now all these elements come into it. Well, I've never had trouble before. No, because you haven't been put in that situation before. You must explore your instrument to know your instrument. And that means going from 0 to 10, tuning high to low, having small crashes, big crashes, big hi-hats, small hi-hats. It's not doing anything. It's in front of you. Then explore.
Yeah.
No one said set it up like this, but if you can't play it properly, you need to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just it's that finding what works, that, and allowing yourself to experiment. Like, just try new things. If that works, great. If that doesn't, okay, let's not do that. And just allowing that is really cool. And
don't get me wrong, I don't keep myself as fit as I used to. I don't have time. That's the biggest problem. I can't go down to the gym and do a workout when I'm on a tour bus because I've got a 6-hour drive to do. But my hour-and-a-half show, 2-hour show, if anyone watches me with Heep, I mean, it's crazy fit. And I'm pleased about that because I want to stay fit. I don't drink. I can't play drunk at all, so I would never go down that road. I love the drums too much. I want to be aware of what I'm doing, and I don't want to sacrifice the gig. So that's handy. But yeah, on days off, I'll treat myself to a nice dinner and a nice bottle of red wine because I'm working my backside off and I want to have some pleasures. But as far as a long tour is concerned, I'll make sure that every gig from the 1st to the 47th one, if there's 47 gigs to do, you wouldn't know the difference. I don't fatigue. I'm lucky like that. And I've also probably got, from years of training or whatever it is, I've got one of them bodies where I'm just lucky. I always, no matter what the gig is, little pub gig up the road or out with Heep, 45-minute warm up with stretches. Always. And that's why I believe I don't have any problems, because I make sure that I'm as relaxed and hot and ready to go with every gig. And I know drummers that don't, and they suffer. They don't realise you play hard and fast. It's physical, for goodness sake.
100%. And I remember it was a few years ago, I was on tour with Blondie. I was opening up for Blondie with Hugh Cornwell, and at soundcheck some days, so the Blondie drummer Clem, he would have this, it was like a gas mask on, or like covering his whole face, and there was a guy with a clipboard, and what they were doing, it's a thing that was called the Clem Burke drumming project. And the long story short is they worked out that for like a rock drummer to, hit pretty hard and play for about, I think it was like a 90-minute set, however they worked it out, it was the equivalent of the same energy as a Premiership footballer playing a match. So it's a proper workout.
I remember that. Yeah.
And wow, and I think it'd be good to just, I think that's a great attitude that you've got about because obviously in a culture with of rock and roll, there can be a bit of the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll tagline attached to it, and a lot of people do get into that, and especially for like younger players not knowing that side of it, I think it's a really helpful and useful thing.
It stares you in the face. You've got to be disciplined. It's a bit like my weak left hand. Well, if you're not going to be disciplined to make it better, you've now got that fault. It's the same as them. If you're not disciplined to learn those 5 songs, you won't get the Heep gig. It all comes back to the same thing every time. If you half-heartedly play 47 rudiments, don't expect to play good drums. If you put all of your 2 hours practice into just singles and doubles and kept doing that for 2 years, expect to play great drums. I mean, it's not really rocket science, but some people just haven't got that discipline to prioritise their playing, their practice, because I do believe that your playing is a product of your practice. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, practice got nothing to do with playing the drums whatsoever, because it's completely different.
Yeah.
In practice, your headspace, you don't give a monkeys if you make a mistake in practice. You have to give a monkeys if you're playing, because you'll lose the gig. So it's a different headspace. You're not doing what you do in practice. So the better quality practice you do to give you confidence to know that your technique's working for you, when you go out and play, you play great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a real cool quote. It was a drummer, Gene Lake, R&B guys, played with David Sanborn, Michelle, and Diggy Cello. But this one quote, it's always stuck. It's, what you practice is what you take to the gig. That like qualitative practice, like practice as if it was a gig, is really, really key. And when it comes to, when you're talking about these tours, like maybe 50 shows a tour or thereabouts, it's like when you're playing, because if like a Uriah Heep established rock set, it's probably going to be the same set each night, maybe a few tweaks, right? How do you keep that fresh? What is that for you? When you've played the same set night after night after night, is that something that factors in at all?
Definitely. And I've got the golden ticket here. I've said it to everybody. Your first gig is the most exciting thing you've ever done. I know you might be nervous, but really your first proper gig, right, where you can control your nerves, how much fun is that? So that goes into about 50% of my pot. The other 50%, what happens if it's my last gig? Would I want to play the best gig of my life, knowing it's my last gig? That's how I play it. That's how I keep it fresh. If I've got them two things going into my head when I go on stage, how can I have a useless gig? The only thing I'm looking for is the crowd response, which changes. But it's my job to make sure that's what I tell myself, my job to make sure they have the best time of their life, because they could die tomorrow. So why not send them off with the most amazing gig? And that way, I don't get bored playing the same thing. I don't approach the songs the same way every night. I try and get a bit more out of it. You know what I mean? And what I mean a bit more is I try and dig. I've got my in-ears might be a tad more sparkly for some reason, and I've got that vibe there, so I'll feed off that, or I'll feed off the room mic. It's giving me a little bit more space with my sound, and it's making me feel so I'll feed off that, or I'll just particularly feel like I want to swing this one a bit. I want to dig in a bit more on this one and swing. You know what I mean? So I'm always putting tiny little bits into the same thing to keep it fresh. I won't do the same drum fills. The certain drum fills I have to do because it will throw the guys out. But if I'm having a bit of fun, if we're doing like a 2,000 seater club gig, I'll say to my tech, because he's a drummer as well, I'll say to my tech, I'm going to have fun tonight. Well, and I'll start getting really busy and a bit fusion here and this, that, and the other, just to have a laugh. But why not? It doesn't mess the guys up too much. I don't really care too much. I'm luckily for me, Uriah Heep's quite a busy gig. I could be straight or I could be a bit leery. That band allowed that, and it's great for me to do that. But I'll do things like that, and it pushes me out. I have a bit of fun, and again, last thing I want is to go on stage thinking, "Oh, when's this over?" No, I can't do that. I'd give up playing if I had that.
Yeah, keeping it fun, because yes, we learn the lessons, but just remembering that, why we started, we love it. It's as natural as breathing, and beautiful point about that. You never know when it is your last gig, so let's play like it's the last gig. And I saw recently when you were doing some shows with like Deep Purple, it's like you were hanging with Ian Pace and Don Airy, and what are those guys shooting the breeze about? What's how are they finding it?
Great, they still thoroughly enjoy it. The guys that, when you've been doing touring for so long with such a great legendary band or whatever it might be, you get it becomes part of you. It's part of your existence. The guys that lose the spark, they dip out, and we all get that. There's some musicians that do lose their spark, and they can get a bit lame, and they do end up treating it like a 9 to 5 job. And you can hear it, and the fans can hear it, especially in festivals. They can tell the difference when a band's on it and another band sounds flat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and but they still love it. Ian's all we did was talk about drums. It's so funny when drummers get together. You don't talk about normal stuff as such. You just want to talk about each other's drums, and really got 4-ply shells, and why did you leave Ludwig for Pearl, and what was this happening? Blah, blah, blah. So it was great fun, and he loves it, and you can hear the excitement in his voice. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, awesome. And talking about drums, what's have you made any tweaks to your setup? Any new gear discoveries and things that have made a big difference? That's exciting.
Yes, quite interesting. When I did the Cozy Powell birthday bash tribute thing, I've done it for a couple of years. When I played Cozy's kit, he's got 2 16-inch floor toms. Well, I always used to play 14-16 or 16-18. Well, when I buy my relatively new setup, I got a gong drum on the right. The European risers weren't really wide enough to cater for my 18 floor as well. With that extra 2 inches pushed it out. Well, I've gone to 2 16s, and what I like about them is you can literally get the nice tonal difference to make a 16 and a 16 sound like a 14-16 or 16-18. There's enough movability that doesn't make the drum sound stupid. So I'm enjoying that. But my new 50th anniversary kit's being made now, and it should be arriving in about a week.
Oh, excellent.
And Tasty have kindly copied the colours are green sparkle into black fade with black gunmetal rims and stuff, right? And Tasty have kindly making me green and black cymbals with 50th anniversary on. So I'm well excited. The companies have been phenomenal. They always are. They've always been good to me, and I like to be good back to them. And they sound great. To me, it's all about the sound.
Yeah.
Like, the looks are second. Of course, we all like a drum kit. You know, such a feature on a big stage. We know that. But basically, you should never compromise your sound because of the look. It should be the other way round.
Yeah, absolutely. And who are you using again? Was it British Drum Company?
Drum Company, yeah.
Great.
And
yeah, awesome.
Honestly, they're great. The drums sound absolutely, well, they're fantastic. And Code Heads. Code Heads are a relatively new head company, by Mike Eaton, who's a drummer with Embrace. But I have to say, their heads really make my drums sound great. And with the last 2 albums that we recorded, Jay Ruston's the American producer in LA, and he's recorded everyone, Mike Portnoy, Kenny Aaron, you name it, everybody. And not only did he say that my kit sounded amazing, he loves the heads as well. Not one bit of dampening did I have in the recording, even on the snare drum. No moon gel, nothing. All that happened was a tiny bit of foam in my double bass drums, and all he did was put the blankets round to isolate the bass drums, which you're supposed to do in recording. And everything else was wide open, and the drums sound fantastic.
A lot of air moving. Yeah, it sounds great. Every time I've heard those.
No tape and no moon gel. It's not needed. All right, for certain music it might do, but at the end of the day, the drum's there to breathe. And if you tune them up properly and hit them properly, they'll sound great. You don't start muting some of the strings on a bloody grand piano, do you? Look at the overtones that they have, but they work together. If you tune your drums properly, the overtones work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And geeky one, tuning wise, have you got any kind of set like protocols? Is it by feel?
Bottom edge, bottom edge, bottom edge, bottom edge. I wish I could say it till the cows come home. Bottom edge. People need to tune the bottom edge first. That's the crucial head, so that it gives you more movability with the top head to then, if some people like it, slightly higher tone or lower tone. But if your bottom head's out, mate, you've had it. If the bottom heads are rubbish and they're loose here and tight there, you've had it. You won't be able to tune the drum. And I very rarely see any drummers going to the bottom heads first to tune. And I find it astounding. The golden rule is tune the bottom head, then you can now do the top head, and it's easy.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I was just come back from BIMM. I come back off Finland festival Saturday night, and I was doing their summer rock metal school. And they had their kit up there. And they're sound checking the kit, and of course the tom-toms were all over the place. So I went up there. Bottom head, I did about 4 lugs on each of them, balanced them out, and thanks from the sound engineer. Sounded absolutely fantastic.
Great. Yeah. It's that thing you're saying, just that sound is there, because you can play all the notes and you can play the notes in the right place, but if the sound isn't there, it doesn't have that je ne sais quoi that it could have. And with, I'm really into tuning, always make sure it's in tune with itself. And I'm really keen about, because when you're playing with Heep, you've got like larger drum sizes, and it's that, tuning a larger drum a bit higher, it's like you can get a fuller sound than with a smaller drum, the kind of a Bonham thing. And what's your kind of
I'm a deep
head relationship?
Anyway. I'm more of a deeper tuner anyway. always been a deeper tuner. But I've just recently changed it. It was 13, 14, 16, 16, 22 gong. I'm now going 12, 13, 16, 16, because I want to have a little bit more of a melodic higher to lower now. So, but I tune the 12 to what I feel the 12 looks like. It looks like the sound. Does that make sense? It looks like the sound.
Sounds how it should.
Yeah.
Sounds like how it should, for what it looks like.
It's not going to be a deep sound, is it? A 10-inch. But a 12 is going to be its sort of sound, the 13, 16, 16. So I like to feel as though I tune them to how they should be tuned. Yeah. But I don't, not like Billy Cobham, ridiculously tune them high, right? But yeah, Simon Phillips tends to tune the toms how they look, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. Great sound,
but obviously he has far more melody than me because he's got more toms than me. But yeah, no, I can't stand a kit that doesn't sound good. And when it sounds good, it puts a smile on your face. It makes you play better because 100%. You're good about playing it.
100%. Yeah. Because I've got this thing with tuning. It's like doing a gig without tuning the kit. It might sound like a simple thing, but I just know that I just want to make sure it sounds as best as it possibly can. And there's always that satisfaction. And I love what you said as well about playing just to make sure the audience has a great time, because it's like without that, it's like without the audience you couldn't do it, And that was a big learning curve that, like, because being put on a stage, a pedestal, literally, it can be, oh, look at me, I'm doing this, blah blah blah, but then going for, not about me, but how can I make a genuine positive difference to people? And it's such a beautiful feeling, especially now that gigs are happening again. People come up after shows and say, thank you so much, that just really helped them sort out whatever it was that they need, and feel more joy. So it's a beautiful thing, and so a lot of respect to you, yourself.
It's amazing the connection music has between people, and if you can connect with the people, your job's done. That's it.
Yeah, meaningful, beautiful. And so musically, so what have you been listening to these days? Have you got anything that's been lighting you up that's pretty cool, like maybe revisiting or something new?
Well, no, actually, what I'm listening to is I've got a rock metal album to record next week.
Right, cool.
They've sent through all the demos with programmed drums and that, so I've been, going over them to find out a bit of transcribing for arrangements, and then figuring out, because obviously programming drums is a lot different to playing them, figuring out what I can do or what I can't do and what I should do. Luckily, there's a lot of play for me to bring my personality, and they book me to do it, but want to keep quite a bit of the program drum. So I've literally just getting the songs in my head, so that, again, I want to play the recording and not searching. I don't want to be searching for where I am, because to me that comes out on the recording. I want to go in there knowing the songs inside out, knowing what I'm playing, and I can just go ahead and do it. So my time's been taken up with that, really. And again, I had a few other sessions as well beforehand a few months ago, so I was listening to them, because people ask me to play all the time, but usually I've been either on the road, so I can't do it, or try and get me to play for 20 quid or something, which those days are gone. I don't need to be doing that anymore.
Sure, man. Sure. Brilliant. And so with as many like strengths that you've got as a musician, because obviously you have considerable ones, what's something that you want to like get better at and level up? Is there something for you that way that you're kind of working on in your playing these days?
Yes,
Not,
I mean,
not
I'm
that you
always
need to,
working
obviously,
on.
but just curious, you know?
No. I'm always working on trying to make things. I'm always conscious of the other musicians around me and people. If they're not moving, I'm doing something wrong. So I always want to try and hit them hard, a bit harder, groove a bit more groovy, lay back that snare drum in that song just a tad more and see if they get it, see if they get that swag. You know, that drum fill, I'm going to put a different, exciting drum fill in. Yeah, always tiny little bits all the time, just to keep on. I don't want to stay there, and I don't want to end up playing the same thing or getting a bit stale. So it's just really pushing certain areas that I'm already doing now. I come off tour, the last thing I want to do really play the drums. I need a breather. I need a head clearance. So I do a lot of golf, and that clears my head. But if I've got something like when I did that Avantasia album, I did go in for a week, and I had to work on double bass drums because I bought me club feet. I can't do ankle movements. I have to do leg movements.
Right.
It's not easy doing that for 5 minutes at 170 BPM or whatever.
It's a lot of muscle.
Yeah, I can't do it. It's like sprinting with your knees up. I can't do it. So I went in, and other aspects of if it's a bit tricky, I'll go in and work on stuff like that. But luckily, you know from yourself, when you're a really good player, you can go in for 4 hours and get 3 months work out of it. Because you're already in the moment. You already got the technique to do it. You just need to, focus on an area to sort of bring it up to scratch, because you haven't had to do that for ages and ages and ages. I'm not a double bass drum player like, a lot of the speed metals and guys. I couldn't do that. When I did Avantasia, I was doing 16 bars of digga, 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 and then he slotted it in. Right. And he turned around and said a lot of players do that. He said, because the reason is it's got to be so precise that I want them to concentrate on their top half, because the bass drums are just going digga, 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 like that anyway. So I might as well just get them to play 8 bars, 16 bars and fit them in, because, trying to nail it with no flams and very slightly out, it's just not worth it. It's got to be tight. You want it to be tight. So I'll just fit them in and just concentrate on your top half. So that made me feel a bit better about it. But it's still amazing, some of the players that play like that out there. But it's not something I can do. I shied away because of my ankles. I know I'd never be able to do it. So I almost blocked it out, because there's no point in me persevering with a physical disability that I can't do. So I tend to use my double bass drums, what I consider to be in more of an expressive way with Heep. I mean, I can still do them pretty fast, but more as a, there's a surge of that coming on there, then I'll put it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I can do all the hand combinations. I'm pretty fast at and doing that. So that's all cool. So I use it like that, really, and not probably like Jason Bittner or people like that, who are really good at it.
Yeah, and it's interesting just to explore these different flavors, and it's like what you're saying. You find what makes you and your strengths, and you're awesome at leveraging those. And yeah, even with double bass stuff like that, thing that makes all the difference. It's like playing 4 on the floor. It's like if it's flamming in the snare drum and the bass drum are like that little bit out, it's like, so like same. It's I've been finding some of the things I've been tweaking is just how can I get like 4 on the floor to feel as amazing as it can, because I just realized a lot of the songs that I do with Hugh Cornwell these days, most of them, the drum parts are super simple playing the song, and there's about 50% of it 4 on the floor. So it's like, let's see how good we can get with that, and ultimately get people dancing, mate.
That's exactly right. And they're the fine points that most drummers, including pros, but a lot of the drummers that are sort of at that medium intermediate level where they just can't figure out why they're not quite that's the finer points that magically will turn them from intermediate to great drummers. But they think it's the other stuff. They think they got to do the paradiddle diddle drum fill, right? That's really in time. You know what I mean? No, you haven't. What you got to do is take care of what's a bit ropey now. Yeah, hi-hat's a bit sloppy. You're not hitting snare drumming consistently in the right place. All things like that. And that turns you into a great drummer.
Yeah, awesome. And that's a cool segue, because I was wondering, so if you had, say, three of those magic ingredients, those finer points that you want to give a shout out to, what would you say are the ones that have most impacted you?
Well, timing.
Yep.
It
100%.
astounds me the amount of drummers that have got bad timing. Timing, groove, and discipline, I would say.
Yeah.
Timing, we all know, you've got bad timing, you won't get a gig with anybody. And you must reflect upon your own ability of how you're playing. If you don't reflect upon how because when you're in the moment, how many times have people done a recording, thought they've nailed it, go back and listen to it, and it sounds rubbish. And then they've done a take and they thought, well, that wasn't very good. Go back and listen to it, it sounds great. Yeah, it plays tricks on you. You must always have a reference on what you're doing as a musician. So record yourself as many times as possible. Hit that groove, listen back to it, and see what's missing or see what you can get better. So that's where the discipline comes in. You've got to be disciplined to do all of those things. Disciplined to prioritise the practice. Disciplined to throw the Latin book in the bin for the moment, because the gigs that are earning you money are doing this kind of thing. You need to nail that kind of thing. And then, I'm really finding it hard, my left hand doing it. Right. Well, then don't find it hard. Practice your left hand so that doesn't come in the equation anymore.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just great points, and it's these pieces of wisdom that often, I've certainly found I've needed to hear it repeatedly just for it to sink in. So these points are great that you're making.
Well, people turn up for a lesson, they think I'm going to get the gold dust out and suddenly make them. And I keep saying to you want to do X, Y, Z, but you can't get to X until you've covered the alphabet leading up to it, and you're trying to miss out all of those letters because you're fooling yourself that yeah, but I can play that BPM. No, you can't. You're playing it at that BPM and it sounds rubbish. Slow it down and make it sound good. Then move it up. And they don't get the hang of that. Your ghost notes are far too loud. You know what I mean? It's all stiff. So what are you doing? You're not listening to anything. What are you listening to? What would you listen? It's got that swing. The dynamics are there. Yeah, but how do I do it? I said, because your technique determines beat placement. And if yours isn't controlled enough, how are you going to get the dynamics right to make it sound like that? So you've got to strip it back to go forward. And no one likes going backwards. They want to go forward. Yeah, but I can play it at this speed. No, you can't. You're fooling yourself. You can play it at that speed because it doesn't sound very good. Oh, now you've got to slow it down. And they don't want to slow it down. They think they're great when they're playing it fast and wrong. So they're cheating themselves. That's where the discipline comes in. If you can't criticise yourself, one of my golden sayings is, the best teacher isn't the teacher. The best teacher is yourself. You see that teacher once a fortnight. He picks up on all the bad things that you do and, praises you when he can. But the 13 days that you're practicing, your teacher's not there going, yes, no, yes, no. You're there. And you should be going, yes, no, yeah, but you don't. You play that, you think it's okay, you move on. Hang on a minute, you should have done that for half an hour. Now it's still sloppy. So when you go to your teacher 13 days later, he says that's sloppy. Because you didn't discipline, you didn't do it. So if you're not going to criticise yourself and get better, what's going to happen? Shut up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Such a great point. Now, like so many of the best drummers, it's like self-taught. It doesn't mean don't learn from a teacher, but it's that when you've got to practice for a tour or fill in the blank, and it's just you in the room. It's like you can't fake it. You got to do the work, and that discipline is, and from recording yourself and listening back. That's similar. That's like one of my number one pieces of advice is that record yourself. Because that tape always tells the truth. And if you can take that, look at yourself and say, okay, that's working well, cool. But then those bits, okay, what's not working as well as I want it to, and how can I fix that? That honesty or that truth in it, just, wow, it's a game changer. And 100%, love the way you say it, man. And so quick one, just some to give people something interesting to listen to that they might not have heard of before. What are 3 amazing albums with awesome, great musical drumming that you just, that always resonate with you, that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, Billy Cobham Spectrum has to always go in there. Yeah, it was a game changer on so many levels and still is now. I mean, you know, how many drummers are going to play quadrant 4 right?
Indeed.
Then, what else? Well, the drumming that Simon Phillips played on the 1985 Tommy tour with The Who, I thought was outstanding. You know, I mean, the way in which he played, the musically, the way in which he did those grooves and some of the drum fills just fitted perfect with the music. I mean, so different to Keith Moon, but so right. And I adore it. But I mean, you can go on forever, can't you? The Driver with Buddy Rich, if we're talking about big band. Now, there's another thing, you know, they talk about, stroke the cymbals. Buddy Rich didn't stroke the drums. He was a very aggressive player. Less is more. Hang on a minute. I don't ever hear Buddy Rich not playing anything that was... You know what I mean? But he played it right. And he played it in time. And he played with dynamics. And that's the difference. If it's played right, there's not such a thing as less is more. You know what I mean? It's about playing the right thing for the right moment. But 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover is a tricky, complex drum groove. It's busy. That's not less is more.
But it just works perfect for that musical situation, though.
Same as Billie Jean. That works for that.
Yeah.
Steve Jordan, one of my favourite pocket players, right? He's not a Dennis Chambers. There's 2 extremes there. Dennis Chambers is all about speed and groove, and Steve Jordan's about simplicity and groove. And they both are fantastic for the reasons that they play it. So the two myths, I said this to Brian, I said there's 2 myths. Less is more is a load of old rubbish, and don't hit the drums hard is the biggest load of old rubbish. There's a time for all of that to work, but you've got to be the clever one to know when to hit them hard and quiet and busy and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great points. So, Russell, what's next for you? You've got a new kit coming. You're very excited about that. And what else is on the horizon? So you got recording, any other big projects coming up?
Well, yeah, I've just finished one, White Spirit. They're an 80s rock band. Brian Howell was the singer. He took over from Paul Rodgers in Bad Company. He took over from Paul Rodgers. He sadly died a couple of years ago, but there were some old tapes of stuff, and they've rehashed it as best they can. They can't get all of the vocals on all the tracks. So we've got Jeff Scott Soto, Sons of Apollo and all that. He's singing on some tracks, and Steve Overland from FN and Lee Smalls is singing. Neil Murray did some bass.
Okay.
And anyway, that album's just literally come out a couple of days ago. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice album to be on.
I'll put a link to that in the notes for this so people can check it out.
Last September, we recorded our next album, and that's going to be hopefully released maybe January time. And I've written 4 songs on it. I've got 4 songs on there. First time I've written. I used some of the downtime in the pandemic to write some cool songs with a good guitarist mate of mine, Simon Pinto. So that's exciting to come out. What else was there? Yeah, this other album that I'm doing with Billy Sheehan's playing on bass, Mike LePond from Symphony X. So she's got some great players there. So I'm excited about that as well. And then the 50th anniversary starts September. We've got rehearsals in August. We've got rehearsals the end of August into the first week of September. Then from the second week, we're away doing the 50th anniversary that should have been 2020. But because of the pandemic, it's now starting in September. And that'll take me up to Christmas.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. And Russell, where can people find more about you and, what you're up to? What's your ports of call that you keep people
I've got
updated?
Russell Gilbrook Drummer on Facebook, and I've got it on Instagram. And then there's normal Russell Gilbrook on Facebook. So, you know, I can get contacted through all of those areas. And obviously on the Heep, uriahheep.com. That could all be contacted with management, this, that, and the other. And hopefully see some people out on the road for a bit of fun.
Yeah, indeed.
And a glass of red.
Indeed, got to be done. Russell, thanks for being here today. Been a blast.
No, brilliant. Thanks for having me.